Everyone excited? Yeah. I know there's nowhere else you'd rather be than listening to a talk about remote code execution. I hope you thoroughly enjoy and get whatever you desire from this talk. If not, you can come to ask me questions later and I'll help sort things out for you, right? So today we're going to talk about some work that I did this past year for a client that we were doing a penetration test for, and it happened to have some ScreenConnect in it. And so before we get into that, let's talk about who I am. So I got some of my fellow coworkers here in the audience here, so thank you for coming to support, represent. So I work for a company called Ultraviolet Cyber. We do penetration testing, we do defensive, we do offensive, we do all the things, right? I don't know if we have an AI team yet exactly, but I'm sure that it's in the process somewhere, right? So I've come from a long line of computer security awesomeness. I've been in the field for about 20 or over 20 years now. So I've seen a fair number of things. And let's see, I've been working for Ultraviolet for 5 years now. I'm currently one of the principal offensive security engineers. You get to do some fun things every now and then. And every now and then they let me come and do a presentation, right? So many years ago, there was an awesome website called ThinkGeek, right? All the awesome, cool people who like geek things go to the store, go there, website, buy things, right? I bought like an electric guitar from them once, and there was I think it was yeah. Anyways, long story short, they sell T-shirts too, right? And I like cool computer security T-shirts. And I got one that I don't wear very often, but I really like it. And it really describes who I am. It's like bow before me, for I am Root. So today, during this talk, I am Root. If you find me at other times, maybe not so much, but at least for today, you can put on that hat there, the shirt. So as I said before, we were doing a penetration test for a client, and we were doing the normal things, right? You scan the network, you see what services are running, you see what hosts are up, you do your nmaps, you do your Go Witness, you gather all your screenshots. If it's a large internal network, you got thousands of screenshots to go through, right? But every now and then you'll go through there and you'll find something interesting, like, okay, this was the screenshot. Well, maybe not the exact screenshot, but a close facsimile of the screenshot that we saw. Like, okay, we're seeing a welcome to ScreenConnect. Okay, so I don't know, raise of hands, who knows what ScreenConnect is and loves to use it? Okay, a couple hands in there, maybe not so much. So this is kind of new to me, right? So as has been stated in this conference here, computer security is vast. It's mind-bogglingly large. And so sometimes these technologies and softwares come up and you've never heard of them. You know what? That's okay. I didn't know about it either. I still don't know much about it, but I know I can get code execution on it, and so that's the awesome thing, right? So long story short, we decide, okay, well, we need to figure out what this ScreenConnect is. Clearly there's some sort of like welcome setup screen, so that looks very exciting, okay? So this is pulled from their website, ScreenConnect.com. It lets IT save the day by doing remote administration, getting in and fixing things, right? All the things that we as hackers want to do as well, okay? So reviewing the information that we have, right? So we've got this ScreenConnect that we have access to that's unconfigured. We have unauthenticated access to it, which we always like. There's some sort of first run setup that we need to configure so we can get access to the application. It needs a license, though. I don't happen to have a license, so that could be a problem we have to overcome. We don't know what version the software is yet, but you can go through and you can search the databases and find that, yeah, okay, there are some recent CVEs, so maybe that's something that it could be vulnerable to. Doing more research online, you see blog posts. Other companies are also investigating these softwares. And you always love to see a paragraph like this, where it says, hey, by design, they let administrators get remote code execution. Like, okay, that's great. This is what I like. Okay. So vulnerabilities, right? So the two recent vulnerabilities that have been mentioned were an authentication bypass. So there have been, like, if you go look on the CVE lists now, you'll see that there are some for 2025, right? This, of course, was before that time. So these were the recent ones back in the day. Kind of hard to think back in the day was just, a couple months ago. But there was an authentication bypass where you append a slash and whatever you want to the end of the URL, and you get to that exact same setup wizard page, right? They also had, in conjunction with that, a path traversal where you can upload a malicious zip file that positions files in directories that they're not expecting you to, right? And then you're able to get code execution that way. So those are kind of cool. Also, in retrospect, I think perhaps what that article was referencing was there's a CVE in 2019 where, as an administrator, you could just upload whatever you wanted and the web server would execute it, right? And so they've closed that down. But, me being who I am, like, okay, well, I'm looking at this ScreenConnect stuff. I see there's some CVEs and stuff. Let's just go in and hack it, right? Let's not care about, what custom extensions might or might not be checked, right? So they make it so that you have to have a signature from ScreenConnect before they'll load your code. I don't even know what version we're running, right? So we have a decision to make, right? So we're looking at this code. We've got lots of other websites on our internal testing that we need to review. Do we want to spend the time right here to see if this is actually vulnerable? Or do we want to say, hey, you know what? Let's just assume it's got CVEs. It's probably an old version. We've got administrator on it anyways. Can we just assume that it's like a really bad problem and just tell them, hey, you got to fix this? So that's one thing you can do. But what if it's patched? What if it's a newer version? Is it actually going to be impactful? These are things that maybe the client would like to see, right? If they have this server hanging out there that they don't know about, how bad of a threat is it, right? And if you don't show that impact, maybe it's just going to keep hanging out there forever. Okay, so I decided I wanted to go through and I wanted to show impact, and also I was kind of curious too. Okay, the first step that we needed to overcome was the license file, okay? So you go online, you can see the frequently asked questions. Hey, if you want a trial of this, you can just ask for license. Like, oh, that's cool, right? Around the same time, I was also going online because there's two different installation types. There's the on-premises type, and there is the in the cloud type. Okay, so you sign up for a trial license because I thought, well, maybe that's the way to get the key. Before I found these frequently asked questions, going through it, can't find anything. It's on the cloud, not exactly what I want. So I ultimately end up contacting support, and this was actually probably the hardest part of this whole test here. The whole exploit was getting their customer support, probably because of my failure to just address what the situation really was, but to get them so that I could get a license key. I'm like, hey, I'm here. I'm doing this test. I've got a setup wizard. I need a license for it. I can't find it anywhere. And they say, oh, yeah, you can download this setup thing, and you download the client installer, and it works, right? So I try asking again, hey, I'm testing this, got it on our infrastructure. Is it the build plus option? I don't know. What am I looking for here? Oh, well, if you're trying to attempt to install on a client machine, yeah, that's what you use. You don't need a license key, but okay, in that case, change of mode. Hey, hello, I'm actually trying to configure a server. Can you help me out here? Eventually, I got redirected to someone who actually knew what to do and how to solve my problem, and so eventually we got past that. Okay, so you get the software, you configure it with your license key. You're in as the administrator. You're poking around at all the settings, and like all the blog posts say, hey. You go in there, you load a custom extension, you get your code execution. It's awesome. Okay, we're going to try that. Guess what? So they provide multiple extensions in their marketplace. You can go and you can install those. One of them is the extension developer. It helps facilitate uploading and executing these extensions that you can create. However, it comes up with an error that says hey, this is a license restricted. Okay, well, That's odd. That's kind of unfortunate. We have another decision to make, right? Maybe it's just trial licenses. Maybe they restrict that to paying customers, right, to be able to upload your own code. Okay, I mean, I could understand that. You know, and this would probably be me forgetting about the CVE 2019 where they had fixed that. But my license didn't work. But, you know, maybe the purchased license would work. Are we going to just say, okay, we're going to call it quits. Hey, customer, this is vulnerable. Well, surprise, celebration. Let's celebrate our failures. I think I heard that once before here, right? Even regular licenses can't do that. You know, and we'll see later on perhaps one reason why you can't do that, right? So at this point, this is kind of where we start getting into some more interesting things. You have to actually start thinking. Like, okay, well, what can I do? What access would it give me? And looking at this, okay, so we can upload a zip file, right? The web server is kind enough to save those files on disk for us. So it takes a zip file, it extracts it. We then have those files on disk, okay? We can't really do anything with them yet, right? You try to directly access those endpoints from those files, and it's like, nope, you're not a signed extension. We're not going to let you do that. Okay, so what else could we do, right? So I got to think, well, if we were able to change the path that these extensions are saved to, maybe we could do some sort of like arbitrary file write and do something that way, right? You're like, maybe we can get these files positioned in one of the directories that it's not restricting, okay? ScreenConnect provides an extension for that, you know? You want to change your settings, they have an extension. This one, the one that I was using was called the Advanced Configuration Editor. That's nice. So this configuration editor will take, provide you options like, hey, do you want to change the remote printing, right? There are various things that you can change in there, but none of those, like you look through these pages and like, okay, none of these settings are doing what I want them to do, right? Maybe because they didn't want people to do them. But just because the user interface doesn't allow you to do something doesn't mean that you actually can't do it, right? So unfortunately, for the purposes of this presentation, I do not have a screenshot of their actual documentation because for some reason I think they decided that it probably should be removed from the website after I disclosed these vulnerabilities. I don't know. I like to think that, or maybe they were just cleaning house. Could be that as well. So anyways, thanks to AI and our friendly agents, when you try to search for something, it'll populate like, hey, I think this is the information you're looking for, right? And so I asked for like, what are the configuration settings that web administrators are able to set, right? And now the question is, can we influence any of these settings? So let's try it, right? So you go into your burp suite and you take one of those configure. You go into the website, you say, hey, let's change this one setting. You watch the packets that are going along and you see, okay, yeah, I see this. What happens if we inject our own setting into that, right? So you reference your documentation, you say, hey, let's change the extension directory path. That sounds like a good one. Okay, thanks, web server. I'll take it. Okay. So this is the exciting slide right here. We'll unfold it one bullet at a time here. So now we're able to upload an extension to an arbitrary location, right? Now, one point of note is that these zip files that you upload, they are kind of sanitized or checked, right? So there has to be a folder in there that's named as a GUID, and then that's where all the files are inside of that, right? So it is not quite arbitrary, but arbitrary to a point, right? Okay. So now that we're able to change the directory, like, okay, yeah, so we can upload, right? But guess what? You upload the files and it's like, nope, sorry, that's still not a signed extension. I'm not going to let you do that. But what about those files that we uploaded previously, right? Let's celebrate that. You know, because now the web server thinks, hey, you're asking for a file that's not in the extensions directory, so I don't need to perform those additional checks, right? I think this is just a website you need to serve up. Okay, access granted, right? And so here's a little web shell I wrote. It's not the most exciting or amazing, but you see, like, who am I? Your system. Awesome. Thanks. Okay. So that's not all. You hold your applause. Thank you. Okay, so reviewing our successes, right? We are the administrator. We know that indeed you can still gain system privileges by remote code execution. We had to alter the configuration file for that to happen. Now, the assumptions are that you need to be the administrator to make this happen, right? And so then that's where doubt starts creeping in. Like, okay, so how many people are administrators on a ScreenConnect instance? Right? Probably not very many, okay. How many companies randomly install ScreenConnect servers on their workstations and just leave them unconfigured? Again, probably not very many. So at this point, I'm feeling kind of sad, like, oh, like, yeah, I found it's kind of cool, you know, you get system on it, but you need these high privileges, right? So it kind of made me feel sad, but pushing forward, I remembered that, you know what? What about that cloud instance, right? And indeed, the cloud instance is vulnerable as well. And guess what? Since I can provision my own tenant in their cloud, I get administrative access. That means you could go do that too, right? You want to be an administrator? Just go sign up. Okay, they do host them on separate URLs, right? So this is my uvcyber at ScreenConnect.com. A little hard for me to see here on this screen. Again, the extensions are blocked, but you can change that configuration option to get your code execution, right? And so this was a screenshot that I took. I would have loved to have, continued hacking their cloud, but that is against their terms of service. So we did limit it to that. But it's kind of interesting to see how many ScreenConnect processes are running. I can't remember how many I counted. I should have, checked that out before this presentation here. But, there's not a small number on that one page right there, right? And we're that one little spot right there. To their credit, they are running these as not system users on their computer, but as local low privilege users, right? But at the end of the day, it still gives you a foothold onto their systems. So I thought that was really neat. Okay, takeaways. Number one, don't give up, right? You might be thinking that you've got a solved problem on your hand, right? People have looked at this before. There are known vulnerabilities. Let's just quit, give up, call it a day, push it out to the customer. But, if you push through and you look harder than someone else has looked, then you might find, an RCE, okay? Another thing is break expectations. The web server was expecting extensions to be loaded in a certain directory. We broke that expectation by loading them into a different directory and got code execution, right? The application itself might have assumed that those paths are constant, right? Who's going to go and take a running web server and change the paths out from underneath it, right? But that's an expectation you can break, and you see what happens when you do that. Again, ScreenConnect is widely used, right? Lots of companies out there use it. You would like to think that it would be fixed, right? Software, you release it out, gets all the bugs worked out, people report it, fixed, long, stable, everyone's happy. But just because a piece of software is widely used does not mean that people have actually looked at it, right? It might be ignorance is bliss at this point. Or you can take a look at Windows, right? They have had bugs for, whenever Microsoft has released a new version of Windows, right? Keeps coming out. Next, you might not know what the full impact of your findings are, right? So don't give up hope or don't feel sad because you find something that's really cool and you think that maybe it's not as impactful, right? If it's cool, it's cool. Take pride and joy in that. And that leads me into my last takeaway. You know what? Computer hacking, network hacking, device hacking, all these things can be fun, right? Find what makes you have joy and happiness. Right? I have a motto. I like to make things and I like to break things, right? And for this talk, it was the breaking part that was the most fun, right? And so go out there, take a look at the software you're using, give it a good look over, have fun with it, right? And stay curious. And with that, we come to the conclusion of the talk where either you can ask me questions or it's lunchtime, right? I think. And so take that as what you will. Any quick questions at all? I can't really see you from the lights here. If not, I'll be here. Come ask me questions. Thanks, everyone.